Welcome to the Bojack Podcast Horseman Obviously. This is episode number 4. My name is Dominic and I'm joined by Matthew.
Hello.
The aim of this podcast is for me to convince Matthew that Bojack Horseman is the greatest animated TV series of all time. And in this episode, we will be discussing Series 1, Episode 4, Zoes and Zeldas. Hello, Matthew.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm okay, thank you. I have now started with hay fever. It's hay fever season, so I thought I've had a cold for the last couple of days, but then I remembered I do this every year and it gets to March and I go, oh yeah, I have hay fever, so yeah.
Yeah, and likewise, I have had a cold, so we both might sound a bit bunged up, but hopefully what we talk about will still have quality. The voice doesn't have quality. Let's jump straight in and you, Matthew, give us a summary of the episode, like just an overall what happened.
So this episode has, I guess, one main plot and one subplot. The main plot being Bojack's relationship with Todd and Todd writing a rock opera, and the revelation that my earlier suspicions that Bojack only keeps Todd around as some kind of company in the house is pretty much confirmed in this episode. Bojack helps Todd with his rock opera to try and bond with him and prove a point to someone. And then there's a subplot that Mr. Peanut Butter is having an article written for BuzzFeed. Diane's ex-boyfriend, the BuzzFeed writer, is kind of like a new character introduced in this. I don't know if he's a recurring character, but it would appear so.
So this is written by the creator again, Raphael Bob Waxberg. This time he's joined by Peter Knight, and it's directed by Amy Winfrey. The episode starts with Bojack performing comedy at a comedy club.
Yeah.
Which I think is a new bit of information that we didn't have about him. But I think it fits weirdly with the sort of entertainment star coming from comedy.
Well, it's a Seinfeld reference at the start.
Yeah, is it? Oh,
the whole thing.
Is it?
You never watched Seinfeld?
No.
Okay, so at the start of Seinfeld, there's like
I know he's a comedian.
Yeah. But it's like a motif, like a musical motif, like the jazz bass that goes on. Yeah.
Okay,
so that's like iconic Seinfeld kind of motif, and that's how the episode starts. So for me, having watched Seinfeld, as soon as it started, I was like, okay, I kind of get the vibe of this scene.
He's trying to tell jokes, but he doesn't seem to be telling them very well. He keeps asking the audience, do you get it? And he's trying to do that thing that classically makes a joke worse, trying to explain it.
Yeah.
There's a nice little visual joke here for me just to reference with the crickets in the background of the comedy club.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, so obviously No,
I didn't see that. So.
A nice animal to have.
Yeah.
But this is where he starts to get heckled by someone in the audience who does get a laugh from the audience.
Yeah.
And I think it is probably the comedian's worst nightmare, and obviously Bojack doesn't like it. However, after the performance, this person comes up to him. Now, I can't remember if he introduces himself as Herb, but I think he does introduce himself.
I might have missed it, but he doesn't give a name.
Okay, he doesn't give a name though, but he comes up to Bojack and says hello to him, and then Bojack says, "Get cancer, everyone." Yeah. That's where it ties it in with the last episode, where we hear about this Herb character who we haven't seen now having cancer, and Bojack telling someone to get cancer.
Okay.
So I think we tie that.
I missed that reference.
Right, okay, yeah. Okay, so an interesting way to look at this is Bojack remembering this scene and remembering how his bad actions might have influenced somebody else.
Okay.
And I think you can build that up into your head into quite big things sometimes. There's a thing about you'll remember a phrase you said to someone once or something you did, and you'll think, oh my God, it completely, like, it must sit with them forever, and I can't believe I said it, and I hate that I said it. Yeah. And actually they have no recollection of it. Like, they didn't think of anything. Yeah. But you build it up in your head. And I feel like this is a nice little, I don't know whether it's intentional or not, but it's a nice little reference to how we overthink our actions and words and the effect they have on other people.
Okay.
But basically, this character, let's pretend we don't know his name yet. He comes to offer him some wisdom. And he says it's the responsibility of big shots like me to always be looking out for the little guy.
But he's only been doing stand-up for a year.
He has, which is really sort of...
He says, I've been doing stand-up for a year already. Like, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
When that's nothing.
Yeah, it's like, so there's definitely like a sense of grandiose.
Yeah.
And there could be another reason why he's come up to Bojack.
Okay.
That's developed later in episodes. I don't think we see it in this episode. But yes, the idea that he thinks he's a big shot because he might even think he's a big shot just because he's had a couple of laughs doing a heckle.
Okay.
And that he can't, like, making people laugh by heckling, I think is very different from writing a stand-up performance.
Okay.
So I think like almost like that sort of idea that he thinks he's better than he is coming across. But I haven't really got a problem with him actually trying to look out for the little guy.
Okay.
I think even if he thinks he's better or bigger than he is, he's still in this scene trying to...
Yeah, he seemed genuine.
Trying to help,
he seemed
trying to be a nice person, basically.
Yeah, he seemed genuine, even if he was like self-righteous or whatever.
Yes.
Like, he does seem genuine.
Also in this scene, I can't remember if it's right at the start or right at the beginning, but he doesn't have a drink at the bar.
He says, I don't drink.
I don't drink.
Yeah. That's at the end of the scene. Because then it immediately cuts to him drinking at home.
Right. Which, again, is nice because we've seen him so dependent on alcohol recently.
Mm-hmm.
So now we can see that it has been a transition, basically.
I like that transition. One thing that I haven't, like I mentioned in a previous podcast, is that the transitions in Bojack I'm not a massive fan of compared to other animation. Yeah. But I like that. It was totally totally set himself up. Oh, I don't drink, and then straight away like he's at home drinking.
So this is when we cut back into the present day scene, and we see, yes, like you say, Bojack is drunk and's got bottles around him. He says to Todd, clean up your shit.
Yep.
So obviously he's a mess, and he still feels like he should act out on other people. And he says, a better guy than you told him. So the first part of that is he puts that person that we just saw in the past, that previous scene, in quite a high esteem, whoever he was, whatever sort of happened from the past now. So he likes that person quite a lot at this time. And he says this, a better guy than you said to me, it's the responsibility of little guys like you to look after big shots like me, which is completely reversing the phrase that this character at the bar told him earlier. And it's to show that he does just think the world should revolve around him, basically. We then get the opening credits.
Maybe.
I think.
Yeah.
I think we get the opening credits because we come back to Bojack and I say his friends in inverted commas.
Yeah.
Because he's sat around the table with these people. I feel like we can't, like, whether we think he's friends with Mr. Peanut Butter and...
His associate.
Associates. Friends, associates. But basically, he sat around this table with them and they're at the roast of Gloria Steinman, which is actually a callback to the previous episode. It's a really hard find, and someone pointed out on a forum that I saw in the last episode where Princess Caroline is talking to Sarah Lynn about why she should be with her. And then Sarah Lynn goes, Vanessa Gecko's got Nick's tickets or something. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then Princess Caroline really quickly goes, I do have a table at the roast of Gloria Steinman.
Okay.
And it's really quick. I think it cuts like really quickly after that. She gets interrupted basically. But this is actually her at that event that she had. It's really smooth. You'd miss it so many.
Well, this is the first episode when I really noticed the serial nature of Bojack. There's like lots of stuff in the house now from previous episodes.
Okay.
That like I noticed, and I was like, oh, that something was set on fire.
Yeah.
And that it's still there. And there's still remnants from the party.
Yes.
There's pictures off the wall of stuff.
So yes, they're at the roast of Gloria Steinman. So Mr. Peanut Butter is at the table and he introduces Wayne, who is writing a BuzzFeed article on him. And Mr. Peanut Butter seems to be quite excited that he's got this article being written about him on BuzzFeed, and he feels like it's the same as having the book written about Bojack. So he feels like they're going through this journey together, which I think is why he's happy about it. It's not the competitive nature. I feel like he actually just enjoys a shared experience.
Yeah. Also, we learn in this episode just how stupid Mr. Peanut Butter is.
Yeah.
And like, he probably maybe does actually believe that having an entire book of memoirs and having a single BuzzFeed article could be comparable. So he's so dumb that that could be a real thing in his brain.
Before we go into Zoe and Zelda, we do find out that Diane tells us that Wayne is also her ex-boyfriend. By the tone of her voice, we can sort of hear that she's frustrated with this situation straight away. And I think as viewers, we sort of know the fact that she's pointing it out, we sort of know where it's going, that there could be a romantic conflict.
Yeah.
So Wayne explains the title of the episode, not that he knows it. He explains the Zoe and the Zelda paradigm. He basically says everybody is one type of person or the other. They're either a Zoe or a Zelda. He says Zeldas are sunny, fun-loving extroverts, and Zoes are smart, cynical introverts. And Wayne believes that everybody is one of these people. What do you think about it?
I understand the concept. I understand the message behind the Zoe and the Zelda thing, but and I know it's very simplistic and derivative, but I don't agree with it. I think people are too complex to boil down into these two single archetypes.
Yes.
And I think you can broadly put people into these brackets, but I don't think everyone that's smart has to be cynical, and I don't think that everyone that's sunny can't be cynical. Yeah, I understand the messaging, but I don't agree with it.
For context, though, title is based on a article that the writer wrote, and it was based on a show called Sister Sister. There was Tammy and Tamara, something like that, and he wrote a short article essay about two personality types, and I did read it. And
who wrote this? Sorry,
Raphael wrote it, and it basically talks about Tamara's are these type of people, but then Tina would say all this, and it basically it's like a really long in-depth article. It was quite enjoyable to read, but I think part of it was pointing fun at categorizing people.
Okay, yeah.
So now we've got an episode that seems to be categorizing people, and it feels like it misses the point a little bit, misses the mark.
Are you suggesting that maybe this Zoe and Zelda concept is done tongue-in-cheek? Like they've written it, but also is saying that this is very derivative and it's not really applicable to people.
I mean, it's quite it might be quite a sitcom-esque thing where you have two contrasting characters and they get either actually friends, but you wouldn't expect them to be friends. So it could be that.
And everyone in a sitcom generally fits into one archetype. Their character.
Yeah, so it could be another nod to that, but I don't feel like the episode explains that very well.
No.
And that's my problem with the episode, really. I would have actually liked them to explore that concept more.
Yeah.
It would have been maybe really interesting to delve into it a bit more. Maybe we both missed something.
Yeah.
But it doesn't do it very well.
No. If that is the main theme, if that is the main, I don't know how you want to say it, if that's the main psychological theme of this episode, it's weak.
Yes. And it would suggest by having the name, because for me, this episode is actually a space opera episode.
Yeah.
So by choosing to call it Zoe and Zelda, I feel like you're alluding that there's something in it about that. Or, like I say, it's just the fact that Raphael had this article that he wrote and he wanted to reference that his own work, basically. Yeah. At this table, we find out that Todd has been writing a rock opera. There's a bit of a mean comment I think Bojack makes, and he's a bit disparaging towards him. But he does sort of make a bit of a joke. There is a bit of a joke where he says, "You're writing a space opera, what could that ever be about?" Mm-hmm. And that obviously leads into Todd explaining the whole space opera.
You keep saying space opera.
I mean rock opera.
Yeah, it's almost every time it's space opera, and I don't know if you're meaning to do it or not. Because technically it is set in space, but in the show they refer to it as a rock opera.
No, it's for context, in case this bit gets left in, and I don't know how many times I've said it. I was talking to Matt about I've just been to watch Dune 2 And I was talking about Star Wars with him, and he said it's more of a space opera rather than a sci-fi. So now I've got this space opera phrase in my head, and I think, like you said, it's because it's...
He's saying space as well.
Yeah. But I do mean rock opera, and I've written rock opera.
So for the purpose of this podcast, the space opera and rock opera are entirely interchangeable terms.
Yeah. But yes, I'm probably going to mix it up even more on later. We go back to Bojack's house, and Todd gives this description of his rock opera, which is apparently a gripping psychodrama of a thriller with plenty of heart and more than a little humour. But it sort of just, it doesn't sound intriguing. It sounds very contradictory in terms of, just like, let's just throw everything at it. So
it doesn't mean anything.
No, a thriller that has plenty of humour, like, I think that's the main thing that I was sort of alluding to there. It just feels like it's not going to work. I think this is where we get the first cut to title that I've actually liked in the show, because he starts performing the rock opera and it says 5 hours later, and he's just doing a really long-ended part of the song.
Mm-hmm.
But like, for this is the first one where I felt for the people sat down, Todd's audience, that they've been, oh my God, you've been sat there for 5 hours.
Okay.
Whereas in the past, when it's been used, been like 15 minutes later and Bojack and Diane have just been sat there.
Yeah.
Not really believed that they've been sat there for that.
Okay.
Whereas this is the first time I've actually believed that Todd's been performing a rock opera for 5 hours.
Okay.
Todd's rock opera comes to an end and Bojack tells him that was worse than 100 September 11s.
Yeah. Which might sound brutal,
yes,
but he gives an even worse comparison later in the episode, which is just horrendous.
Yes.
So it doesn't get much more offensive or derogatory as what the descriptions he's using.
Princess Caroline has also been working on 2 phones all this time.
Yeah.
One, and she's done 2. And then...
Throughout the whole dinner scene and throughout this scene, she's just been sat on her phone texting the whole time.
Yeah.
She hasn't interacted with the group at all.
But we can assume that she's working.
Yeah.
We'd assume that she's not just being on social media or anything like that. So after this performance that Todd gives, I think it's like the next day, and Bojack and Diane are continuing to write this book about him. And Diane asks Bojack about Todd. She sort of says, "Oh, tell me a little bit about your relationship with Todd." Again, he's quite disparaging about him, and so sort of says he wandered into my house at a party and he's just never left, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Diane actually says here, did you not have anyone that helped you out when you were starting up?
Yeah.
Because I think she sort of sees Todd in a different light, where he is just an artist trying to perform and create something. And Bojack says, actually, no. And as soon as he says, actually, no, in the background, there's a picture of this guy that
the guy from the comedy club.
It's literally there, which again is actually I think it's done quite well.
No, it was. I did, because that could be missed. So it's a sign that it was animated well.
Yeah.
It was well framed to highlight that. So
I think you could see it in the background a few times.
Well, to be fair, when this scene first started, because there's a bunch of pictures on that wall.
There is, yes.
And like my eyes were drawn to it to try and see if there was anyone of note on there.
Right.
I think I remember seeing there was like a budgie or something.
Okay.
That he stood with. I don't remember. They're all black and white.
I'd have to look at it again.
Yeah, they're all black and white. And then when he gets to that scene when he says, "No, I didn't have anyone. I didn't have any mentors."
It's
like
literally
that's like front and center. I think it's like literally over his shoulder.
It's almost like he's having that sort of thought bubble, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like in a cartoon, but they've done it in real life.
It's an ultimate expression of denial when the evidence is literally right in front of you and he's still saying no.
Yeah. But okay, so now we sort of understand again a bit more about this person, even if I can't remember if we remember his name or not at this point, but it's alluding to that this person actually guided them through his career.
Yeah.
So we're learning more and more about this relationship with this person. So Diane asks Bojack if he lets Todd live at his place because you're kind or because you're just terrified of being alone, which is what you've sort of said, that it is that sort of background noise. It's that worry that if you're not there, then I am alone.
Yeah.
Like, not just physically in the space, but mentally.
Yeah.
This causes Bojack to defend himself, and he then insists on helping Todd with his rock opera. And at this point, it does seem like he's trying to prove Diane wrong rather than trying to help Todd.
Yep.
Which I don't know where that sort of comes from, but because I have been thinking that he likes Diane. I could say that he's trying to appeal to her. Like, he's trying to prove himself as a good personality to her.
Maybe, but I just got the impression he was just being a stubborn dickhead.
It didn't feel like
and like, he's like, well, if you say I'm like this, then I'm going to be like this.
Bojack then sits down with Todd to work on this rock opera with him, and he tells him everything is bad. And Todd's like, oh, right, okay, yes, I'll take that note and I'll go away and look at it. But I think it's sort of clear to us at this point that he's not really actually helping him. He's not giving constructive feedback. He's not being a positive force with Todd at this point. Which leads us to Bojack and Princess Caroline having sex again, which sort of comes out of nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah, this scene was cringe, man.
This one is, but I like the second half of this.
Oh, the second one's even worse.
No, I think the second one's...
It's so dumb. It's so dumb.
It's so dumb, but like, yeah, let's talk about it now, because there's a bit in the middle where... So basically, Bojack's having sex with Princess Caroline, and then Todd comes in and gives a little bit of an update on what he's been doing. And again, Bojack's like... But basically, he says to Todd, that's all rubbish still. And Todd's like, right, okay, I'll go away and I'll work on it again.
You missed out the bit where they're having sex and he shows what a inconsiderate lover he is.
Yes. But...
Which is like a very obvious nod to his like selfish nature.
It is.
He's not even listening to it.
No, he's not. No. So basically...
All he's concerned about is himself.
Yeah, what does he say? At the end, he says, did you get there?
Yeah, he's like, and she's like...
Oh, no, that's... sorry, he's like... Because she says, you're not even in me.
Yeah.
And he's like, he doesn't care. It's going away. Yeah. Okay, so I think that bit by itself is weak. But when it comes back the second time...
No, when it comes back the second time, it's so dumb. That's the cringe bit that I was talking about. The first time, it's okay because it's like... It's a very obvious and like stereotypical...
Yes.
Like... You've seen it in so many films.
Yes.
Of like inconsiderate...
men can't satisfy women in bed.
Yeah.
The joke.
But more so than that, Bojack doesn't even care. Like, he's only concerned with his own gratification.
Yeah,
the bit where she says you're not even in me.
Yeah.
Like, I did find that quite funny.
Yeah.
That was so.
Yeah.
He's just enjoying himself, and he just doesn't care about her at all.
Yes, but you see, I really like the second bit, and I actually think this is the best I've seen this joke done. So the joke is men constantly not being able to satisfy women, and women sort of. I feel, okay, why I like this joke is because I actually think it seems like a sexist joke, but I actually think it's the type of joke that actually draws men and women closer together, of a shared comedy.
Okay.
Which I think is quite a unique comedy between men and women. Or a joke between men and women that is enjoyed by men and women.
So do you think that Bojack thought that Princess Caroline was in bed when she wasn't? Or do you think Bojack was purposefully doing it on his own, knowing that Princess Caroline was in the bathroom?
You could look at it going on back on the past episodes and saying like he's a narcissist and he's just self-pleasuring and doing whatever he can. He's only thinking about himself. But I think the fact that...
No, this is a legit question. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. If this is a joke...
I don't think it's about Bojack at all.
So
I think this is about men and women, this joke.
If Bojack is aware that Princess Caroline isn't in bed,
yes,
and Bojack is just
masturbating,
just fucking the bed, basically.
Okay.
If he's aware that Princess Caroline isn't there, then he could potentially be making a statement to say, I can get off without you.
Okay.
I don't need you.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So
in that sort of arrogant way.
Yeah. So if that is how deep the joke is, right, no pun intended.
Yeah.
Then I think then there's like some comedy there. But I didn't get that.
Okay.
The way that it's presented seems to be that Bojack is oblivious to the fact that Princess Caroline isn't there, and he's just happy to be himself. And if that is the case, that's so dumb.
Okay.
Because no one would. It's so unbelievable, even for a cartoon.
Yes, that sort of Family Guy comedy maybe.
It's not even Family Guy would go to those levels where you think you're doing something with another person, and that other person isn't physically there. That's so unbelievable. So it depends how the joke is being delivered.
Well, he does for a second time. He says, "Did you get there?"
Yeah, but I don't know if he's making a joke about the first time.
Yeah.
Is he joking with himself?
Right. Okay.
Is he taking the piss out of himself?
Okay. So if I don't think that's the case, does that just mean it's a bad joke?
Yes, I think it's awful. I think it's so dumb. But if it is Bojack self-reflecting and self-criticizing on his previous performance, then it works.
Yeah.
If we take it on face value that he's supposed to be having sex with someone that isn't even in the same bed and he doesn't realise, that is so stupid, and I didn't like it.
Now I'm trying to explain the joke. I don't find it as funny.
No, it's not.
But I still, every time I watch it, I actually feel, I just think it's a good joke.
Okay.
But I can't explain very well.
Well, we're looking at it from two different perspectives.
Okay.
You're looking into it as a commentary on the ongoing complicated relationships between men and women.
Yes.
And I'm looking at it as yet another.
Exactly.
Another massively over the top, on the nose, highlighted moment of Bojack's own sense of selfishness selfishness, I guess, is what it comes down to.
And for some reason, I would agree with the past scenes we've talked about where it's been like that with you.
Yeah.
But there's something about this scene or these two scenes that feels different.
But don't all jokes play on some kind of pre-recognized social conversation?
But I don't know why this one feels like it's less about Bojack. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. This one just feels like it's more about the commentary, whereas I feel the past ones have been more about displaying Bojack's narcissism and arrogance. Okay. But this is a joke that's...
I just think the fact that he doesn't listen to her at all.
Yeah.
Not in the slightest bit.
Yeah.
If it was a commentary on like the long-running joke in society about men and women's different sexual requirements, then he might actually listen to her and say, "Oh, what, you didn't get there? Okay, maybe next time we'll do it," or whatever. Okay. He might actually reflect on that.
Okay.
But no matter what Princess Caroline says, in the first scene or the second scene, he's only concerned with his own performance in himself. He doesn't listen to her at all.
Yeah.
Not in at all.
Because I feel like when you watch...
But this is one of my on-running problems with Bojack, is a lot of the time the jokes are overly done or overly explained. There's extra lines in there that don't need to be in. Right.
Let's get back to rock opera.
Todd comes in to the bedroom.
Todd comes in and he says, he has some things that he adds. And again, Bojack's like, "That's rubbish. I hate it. Go away," sort of thing. So he's still not giving him constructive feedback. He's still not being positive until they get to the kitchen. And Bojack basically says, "I would believe it more if," and then he starts on this whole thing of, if this character did this and had this response, which shows that he was listening all the time.
Yeah.
And everything
I like that.
Which really came out of the blue.
Yeah,
This was an example. This is the best thing about this episode, where we think Bojack's not been paying attention, but he has. And he actually basically has the same realization as Todd, because he starts talking. I haven't written it down, but he starts talking about what the real problem of the rock opera is. And then they both come in like a very comedy sitcom-esque.
They mirror exactly the same thing.
It's that we always finish each other's sentences, like sandwiches or whatever it is, but it's really done extremely well, where they both...
It's a joke that's been used many times, but it does work. It does work here.
Yes.
In fact, it's a joke that's so commonly used, but that there might even be
a name for
it.
So this then leads to Bojack and Todd working together very well now. So Bojack invites Todd for lunch, and we actually, instead of cutting to them at lunch, we actually cut to in Mr. Peanut Butter's house, where Wayne is writing the article on him. And Diane questions Wayne and says, how much information do you need for a BuzzFeed article? BuzzFeed is, I didn't know if it was still a thing.
I didn't know if it was still a thing. It really shows the age of the show when they were mentioning BuzzFead, yeah.
It definitely used to be like that second entertainment source of news sort of thing. Like it was it was actually quite well renowned.
Is it still going?
It is still going. I went on the website. It's exactly what they talk about in this show, and it's exactly what you remember.
Okay.
About, like, what member of Friends are you?
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
Or like the 10 biggest McDonald's or whatever. Yeah, it's just ridiculous articles. So they're not articles that traditionally need a lot of sourcing on information. They're quite clickbaity and light humour, basically, isn't it? She questions how much information that he actually needs. Mr. Peanut Butter gets another phrase wrong. I think this is actually the second time this episode where he says, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, fiddle-dee-dee.
Yeah.
And like, he's got no idea. Like I say, he's got all these sort of phrases that he part overheard and not fully understood or got completely wrong. But again, he's not afraid of getting it wrong. Is the thing that I'm starting to pick up again as I'm rewatching. Like, he doesn't care.
No, he doesn't.
I think in a world where we care so much about people's interpretation of ourselves, there's actually a bit that I'm refreshed seeing Mr. Peanut Butter, like, not afraid to look like, he's not afraid to look like an idiot.
Because he is an idiot.
But he's not afraid to look like an idiot.
That's like saying a 3-year-old child isn't afraid to look like an idiot because they don't know any better. It's like he's a dog. It's literally like saying a dog isn't afraid to look like an idiot because they're not smart enough to have that kind of like self evaluation.
Yeah. But yes, and Diane wants to go to the Diane Arbus show. Mr. Peanut Butter's like, oh, I see what's going on here. You've both got the name Diane, so you want to go to it. Like, he's drawing like the
simplest connection.
Yes, the simplest connection.
Yeah.
And Wayne says, oh, I would have liked to go to that actually. And Mr. Peanut Butter's like, oh God, you guys have got so much in common. Like, why did you break up? And Wayne's like, oh yes, why did we break up?
Yeah.
And this is where we see that Wayne's trying to get back with Diane, and Diane can see it a mile off, but she's trying to be polite because her boyfriend is enjoying having this BuzzFeed article written on him, and maybe there's something about her not wanting to cause controversy and stuff like that. So she's sort of holding herself back a bit from what's going on. But basically, they can't go and see the Diane Arbus show because Mr. Peanut Butter wants to go and eat burritos as big as his head.
Yeah.
Which again is very, I want to say, lowest form of entertainment and that sort of thing, which again, it always makes me feel like I'm saying one entertainment or hobby is better than the other, which I always disagree with.
Yeah.
But the way it's portrayed in the episode is that this is a very simple form of entertainment and pastime compared to a intellectual art show.
Yeah, I think there's also the argument that this thing, whatever what she wanted to attend, is like a tour. So it's like you can't do it any time.
Yeah.
Whereas this burrito thing seems to be a weekly or daily occurrence.
Yeah.
So it's like.
So, but Diane's quite happy just to go along with whatever he wants to do, rather than stand her ground and say, no, this is important, I want to do it. But again, emphasising the fact that there does seem to be a mismatch between their personalities and hobbies, and whether that means that they should be together or shouldn't be together. So then we cut to Todd and Bojack having lunch together, and they're getting on really well. There is another visual joke here about one of the animal people, the anthropomorphic nature of the world, where the waitress is a cow and she's serving a steak to the person, and she's actually like annoyed she's doing it.
Okay, I didn't. I missed that one.
Yeah.
But now you say it.
Yeah, she's like,
yeah.
That's right. And he's like, oh God, sorry. So
Yeah.
it's like, but Bojack is really interested in Todd, and he starts asking about Todd's life, and they start engaging and enjoying each other's company. And this is where we learn that Todd was obsessed with a video game when he was in high school, and his mother kicked him out of the house because all he would do is play this video game.
Yeah.
This is also where Todd goes to Bojack, think about the best rock operas that you've ever seen. And Bojack goes,
yeah,
as if to sort of imply there isn't any.
Yeah.
And as a quick little quiz, Matthew, I bet you weren't expecting this time, were you?
I wasn't expecting this, no.
Let's play Can You Name Any Rock Operas?
I'm not sure.
Or I'll give you bands that have done rock operas as well.
I'm not sure exactly what constitutes a rock opera.
Right. Neither am I. So I have a list, apparently the 10 most popular rock operas.
Okay.
I don't know who's classified a popular one or one that's not very good.
Okay.
Can you name any of them, I suppose, is the quiz.
I don't know. Is Rock of Ages one of them?
Rock of Ages. Who was it by?
I don't know. I remember seeing it. I went to see it at the theatre years ago. I saw it at the theatre and it's got rock in the name, so I don't know if it constitutes as a rock opera.
It is not on the list I have in front of me. Okay. So I don't know whether it is, and it's not a very popular one, or
it was popular.
Okay,
but maybe it's just not a rock opera. Maybe it's just an actual play. I don't know.
Right. So, is there any others that you can think of or name to beat Bojack, who can't make any good ones?
Meatloaf's quite operatic. Is there anything associated with Meatloaf on the list?
No.
Okay. Do
you want me to
tell me what a rock opera is? Yeah.
I don't know the definition. Do you know what? I think my dad, because there's one on here which my dad and my brother used to talk about quite a lot.
Okay.
Because basically, I don't know whether they liked it or they liked the band and that happened.
Okay.
But I feel like it is just a telling of a story through music, as opposed to written. So I don't know how that ties in with
War of the Worlds.
Is War of the Worlds sung?
Some of it is.
Oh, okay. Okay. I think we're not going to get. I'm not going to give you 100 clues to try and get all of these ones. So I'll go through a couple. Jesus Christ Superstar.
Okay.
Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Okay, that's a rock opera, is it?
That's a rock opera. But you've heard of that, obviously.
Yeah.
Another one.
Starlight Express, is that one?
I didn't see it. Again, it might be a rock opera, but it's not on that. I don't know. Not on the top 10.
It might just be a play or something. I don't know.
Going down the list, American Idiot, Green Day.
Okay.
Apparently was a rock opera.
Okay.
So I don't know whether there was a performance alongside, because that was an album, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I don't know whether there was a whole performance stage along it, but I'm guessing there's and this is where I'm not a rock enthusiast.
Okay, yeah.
Is that fair? I don't actually like rock music.
Okay.
That might be quite divisive, but
okay.
I've never listened to American Idiot. I'm guessing there's a bit of a story all the way through it. F. Sorrow, Pretty Things.
No.
Not heard of it. I've not heard of those. The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust.
Oh, David Bowie.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah. Tommy.
Yeah, the Who.
That's the one I know.
Todd references that in the episode.
He does, yes.
Yeah.
So maybe we can't have that one. But I had heard of that one. Arthur, or The Decline and Fall of British Empire, The Kings.
Don't know that.
The Lambs Die Down on Broadway.
No.
Genesis.
Okay.
Not a Genesis fan.
No, I've never been Genesis.
The Wall, Pink Floyd.
Is that a rock opera?
Apparently.
Okay.
Well, apparently there was a rock. Again, we're not very good at this. I'm not very good at this game because we don't know what rock opera is.
No.
So it's hard to say whether these are albums. But and the last one, Quadrophenia.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Good film.
Yes. Yeah, I have actually seen that. Yeah. So I think the point of that game was to highlight the joke that Todd and Bojack had, where Todd said, think of all the good rock operas that you've ever seen. And obviously no one thinks rock operas are very good. And yet Todd is really enthusiastic about making one, which I think is quite interesting in itself, why they've chosen Todd's artistic career to be in rock operas. I don't know whether it's that wacky, zany sort of character element that he has.
Yeah.
Because he could have been a comedian and literally followed in Bojack's footsteps.
It's just unexpected, isn't it? It's just a random thing.
Yeah. Who would ever write a rock opera?
Yeah, yeah.
But yes, that's the joke, and that was a long way of explaining it. But at this dinner that they're having, Bojack gets a call from the paparazzi birds from the last episode of the pictures of him then. Yeah. And they start trying to blackmail him, but Bojack just isn't listening to what they're saying. No. Whether I'm sort of torn between whether he's trying to show Todd how interested he is, because he says like, sorry, I'm having a conversation with my best friend, and he sort of hangs up there. So I don't know whether he's trying to direct that at Todd to show how engaged he is, or again, whether he's just oblivious and narcissistic and can't think of anything.
I think probably a bit of both.
Yeah. But again, it's a callback to the last episode where the episode ended with us thinking something bad's going to happen from this situation. And it seems to have fizzled out here. They literally approach him to say, we're going to release these pictures if you don't give us money.
I don't think that's the end of it, though.
Right, okay.
I don't think that's the end of it. I might be wrong.
But this is the first attempt to do it.
Yeah, I think it's going to come up again at some point.
Yeah, but I suppose there is also there's a bit of a joke about how inept they are as well at blackmailing this person.
Maybe.
I think this is a little bit funny there. And Todd says that he's got Princess Caroline to invite Virgil Van Cleef down, this major player in rock operas, to listen to it. So things seem to be going in the right direction, and something might be happening with this. So after their lunch together, we cut back to Bojack's house, and he's gathered all their associates again. We'll call them associates. And Bojack says to them, clap really hard and laugh at all the jokes, even if they're not funny. But also be careful, because a lot of the things you might think are jokes are not jokes. So, look out. I think it's just it's a funny little joke, because it's sort of asking people to have an expectation, but then they can't actually manage that expectation or that. Yeah, it just sounds, it's impossible now for an audience to laugh or know when to laugh, basically.
Do you think it's like a bit of a meta joke about us as an audience watching Bojack?
Yeah. Okay. No, it definitely feels, again, completely like that Raphael was literally saying that to us about the whole show. Yeah. And again, it's sort of, there's so many points in this whole show where there's times where you feel like it's not funny, but then later it is funny, or it seems funny, but then you're like, oh God, that's really disheartening, or a bit too close to the truth sort of thing. So yeah, it definitely felt like he was saying that to us. Princess Caroline then has a little laugh after that. Like she does that, oh, and Bojack says that wasn't a joke, or that wasn't a real joke, and she goes, that wasn't a real laugh either, sort of thing. And it's a nice bit of banter between the two characters, but it also, again, highlights Princess Caroline as this uncaring agent that has a very fake persona that she can use when she needs to. But it's just a nice little bit of writing, I think, that seems quite flawless between the two characters, and is probably hard to do from a writing point of view. And Mr. Peanut Butter has brought Wayne with him again. The person that's writing this BuzzFeed article, he's brought again to Bojack's house to get more information on him. But Mr. Peanut Butter and Diane are wearing T-shirts saying, I ate burritos as big as my head. So obviously Mr. Peanut Butter got his way. But then Mr. Peanut Butter, I think, surprises us as the audience and Diane by giving her plane tickets to San Francisco, where the Diane Arbus exhibit is going next, which I think's a very nice move on Mr. Peanut Butter's behalf, but I think actually makes me like him a bit more. Yeah. And that's something that we might not have seen from him before.
I don't not like Mr. Peanut Butter. I like him. He's just stupid.
Okay.
I think I said in one of our previous podcast episodes, I think he's the only main character, with maybe the exception of Todd, that isn't like malicious or vindictive or out for themselves.
Right.
Every character has some kind of agenda.
Yes.
And I think Mr. Peanut Butter doesn't, because he's so stupid. And I think...
But like you were saying, it's because he hasn't got the ability to have an agenda.
Yes.
Is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. There's an innocence there's like a childhood innocence about him, which I think makes him more likable than the other characters who all seem to be too smart and too jaded for their own good kind of thing.
Mm. He also says here, tomato, tomato, instead of, and then Bojack's like, no, you mean tomato, tomato. And he's like, you say tomato, tomato, I say tomato, tomato.
Yeah.
So again, it's just his oblivious nature of,
yeah.
But actually what he's saying, I don't know if his comeback to the phrase actually reinforces the point of the phrase itself.
Yeah.
Like, it's
I thought that.
A weird thing that he actually proves Bojack right in what he's saying. So this is where Virgil Van Cleef comes into Bojack's house as well. And Todd starts his rock opera performance to everybody. I think we get another 5 hours later title. I think we've all been in a situation. Maybe am I going to call it? Yeah, maybe with family situations sometimes, or presentations at school or something, or college or university, where you have to sit through something. And it's so...
Yeah,
it takes ages and it feels long. And I just feel like this is what every person watching the show was like.
Yeah.
Apart from Bojack, who is at the end this time singing along to the rock opera.
Yeah.
So he's clearly actually now really invested in Todd's rock opera, really enjoying it.
Well, he's had a creative input in it.
Okay. Oh, okay. I was trying to think why, but okay.
Like if he's had a creative input in it.
Okay.
And Bojack being so selfish and so self-aggrandizing, then perhaps these are some of the lyrics that he's written.
What I liked from what you said was like he now sees it as his work.
Yes.
So now because people are listening to Todd, they're listening to him as well.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But anyway, he's a big part of it now. But he's the one singing and listening, and he just seems fully involved now.
I don't know if you missed this, but when he introduces Todd, he comes out of the closet.
No, I think I missed that in the whole episode. What? So Bojack comes out of the closet?
No, Todd does.
So,
he's explaining to them about Todd's going to perform this opera.
Yes.
And I want you all to like appreciate it and like it and whatever.
Okay.
And you don't know where Todd is at this point, and you think he's in another room.
Okay. Yeah.
Bojack literally walks over to the wall.
Yes.
And because the living room closet is what he gives him later to put his stuff in.
Yeah.
But at this point, he opens the closet door and Todd's just stood in the living room closet.
Yes.
Like as if he wanted to make some like grand entrance and this was the best that they could do. It's like, go and stand in the cupboard while I talk about you, and then I'll open the door and introduce you. Like, I did like that joke, but I don't know if there's I'm probably just reading deeper into it. But is there a deeper joke about Todd coming out of the closet? Because he's literally in the closet and Bojack opens the door and he comes out.
I'm going to say you're nearly there.
Okay.
And it's something that there's a whole episode to well, there's episodes talking about it. But it's more interesting than that, and I think more unique. And if this is an early reference to it, which it might be, is really nice. Yeah.
Regardless if it is a biggest thing or not, I just like the dumbness of him being stood in this cupboard basically before he makes his grand entrance.
There is,
I did like that.
I don't think we've seen enough of it yet, but something we'll see a little bit more. And it's not a spoiler thing. He likes to dramatise things.
Okay.
So he likes to make a show. Like if there's a chance to make a big entrance, he would like to make a big entrance. Or like he tries to make things seem bigger than they are, like comedy or for effect or for the sake showmanship. He likes to try and create showmanship wherever he can. That yes, in this case, someone coming up the closet is just that. Because they probably all saw him go in the closet.
Maybe, quite possibly, or he's been stood in there for a very long time while everyone arrives. Either way, it's so dumb.
So they perform the rock opera, and Virgil Van Cleef says it's spellbinding, and he wants Todd to debut the show at his theatre in 6 weeks. But he does say it needs a third act showstopper, And Bojack has like, I think it's a bit of an entertainment joke where Bojack goes, "Oh yes, I had that same note."
Yeah.
Oh yeah. To show that he's like thinking the same as everybody else, but also like
he doesn't want to be upstaged.
Yes, yeah. They also repeat the phrase here, or Virgil Van Cleef repeats the phrase that Mr. Peanut Butter used earlier, where he says, "Fool me once, shame on you, but teach a man to fool me, and I'll be fooled for the rest of my life."
Yeah.
I don't quite know why. They've obviously deliberately repeated that phrase in a slightly different way, but I don't quite know why.
No. In the first instance, Mr. Peanut Butter just, he starts saying the phrase, and then I got the impression that he forgets the end of it, so he just makes up some noises.
Yeah.
With Virgil Van Cleef, he's actually mixing two different ones.
Yes.
It's like the teach a man to fish and he'll eat for a lifetime.
Yes.
Like, he's taken two different common sayings and like smashed them together.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know.
No, I don't. And like I said, all I can think of is it's a storytelling tool. But yeah, there's something just quite funny in how he says it and what he says about teach a man to fool me and I'll be fooled for the rest of my life. I just think that's just something quite comedic about that. And then at the end of this, Todd says, "If this show is a success, then I could finally move out." And this is where Bojack has this sort of light switch moment where he realizes that he might have to live by himself if this show is a success.
Yeah.
Which I think is the point where it changes, and this might be the point where he starts planning a very horrible thing that he does.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know what it is with that.
Saw it coming a mile off as well.
Okay, what, from this point?
From this point, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Which is okay, as long as you don't see it before, I think it's fine.
I think I did get the vibe that this might happen.
Okay. Because at the beginning of the episode, he's like worried that someone's going to move out.
Yeah.
And then it's like, so that must mean the conclusion of the story is not moving.
That would be the obvious run of the show.
Okay. Well, I think here it's cemented anyway that something's going to happen. So we cut. I always say we cut to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. we cut to.
We transition to.
So
we move to.
We will transition this time to the theatre where the show is all being set up, and there's a little visual joke of the beaver cutting the wood for the show, which is a bit more Flintstone sort of style with the pelican stirring the concrete in his mouth. But in this scene, Bojack is clearly worried about if and when Todd moves out, because it seems to be like all this momentum is happening to his show. So it's starting to seem inevitable that the show will be successful and Todd will move out. Yes, because this is where we get the cut scene of I've seen what happens to baby birds when they're pushed out the nest too soon.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a dark one. And for me, it just literally had no extra that it added to the scene.
I like the joke, but I think it could have just been snappier.
I like the joke, but I just felt like along the lines of what you were saying before, it just literally felt like he said the same thing.
Yeah.
Like I've seen it when birds are pushed out the nest too early, and now we're seeing birds being pushed out the nest too early.
Yeah. I liked it, but it could have just been a lot snappier.
Yeah.
You didn't have to have the over the top Bojack saying,
"No,
it's not your fault. It's not your fault."
I've written. I liked that it seemed very dark. Like it wasn't like a joke cutscene. It was a dark cutscene.
It was a joke. This was probably one of my favorite jokes in the whole episode.
Okay.
Just because I was like, it was so literal. I liked it.
But then because the idea is this bird's babies have fallen out of the nest, been pushed out of the nest, and now are dead on the floor.
Yeah.
Is the insinuation.
Yeah.
And I think that, it is dark, and I do like dark stuff. Yeah, it just didn't. It didn't.
I think it could have been a bit more subtle.
Yeah.
Like, you could have had that exact scene as it was framed.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't need to have either character say anything.
Yeah.
And just have them both, like, looking out of the window down at the road below.
Yeah, it would have been nice if they were just both looking at the floor.
Yeah.
So Bojack says to Todd, before you write this third act showstopper, let's stop and get some Red Bull and snacks.
Yeah.
Because I know you get snacky. And it's like, oh, yeah, no, yeah, I do. Thank you for that. We'll do that. The way Bojack says it, still, I think we get the hint of what's going to happen from earlier. But
sure.
At this point, he's doing it it seems like a very concerned way to Todd. And at the shop, in the 10-cent bin, is this very game that Todd was so addicted to. And Bojack says, this is no time for a relapse, Todd. To demonstrate just how bad of an act Bojack is doing towards Todd, he says, this is no time for a relapse. I think framing his gaming as an addiction is supposed to say to us as an audience that Bojack is giving him the drugs.
Yeah.
But Todd buys the game.
I like the iguana behind, or whatever lizard
Okay, yeah.
And he uses its tongue to grab the money.
Yeah.
And he just says something like, no refund.
Yes, yeah. I was like, I'm buying it, yeah. Got it. Todd sits down to write this third act showstopper, but he can't stop thinking about the game. And Bojack's still telling him, like, don't play the game. And Todd's like, oh, I wonder if it still smells the same. And Bojack's like, like, all his phrasing is, I guarantee you it still smells the same.
No, he actually said something quite funny there.
Yeah.
It says something like, it smells like cheap plastic.
Yes. Yeah,
sweatshop or something along those lines.
Yeah, I assure you, it still smells like cheap plastic and sweatshop workers.
Yeah.
But it feels like he's that confident. Because obviously we know the ending. He's that confident that Todd is going to play the game all night and ruin his rock opera. He can still say all these things that you would say to someone to stop doing.
Yeah, but he doesn't physically take it away from him.
He doesn't, but equally should he? Like if Todd had come home on his own volition and brought the game, and Bojack hadn't conceived this whole situation,
knowing that
would Bojack have literally physically have taken?
Knowing the circumstances,
yeah, you would take the game away from him and you'd hide it.
I would say so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, knowing the circumstances, knowing how addicted he is to this game, and the fact that he's got to get this work done.
Okay.
This night, and then after that night, then he can do what he wants.
Okay,
like
I think you're right.
I think most friends, quote unquote friends, would probably say, "Listen, I'm going to look after this for tonight.
Right,
get done what you need to get done, and then you can play it all you want tomorrow."
Okay, so Todd's he goes, "I'm not going to play the game. I'm going to sit down and write this rock opera." 10 seconds later, the TV's on and the game's on, and he's playing the game. And the title screen, Decaprathon, comes up and he's entering his username, which we all obviously knew he was going to do as soon as he bought it. But I really like the joke about what the game actually is.
It's just like a really shit version of Tetris or something. It's just some generic columns game.
It did make me think about how actually that sometimes the simplest game might be the most addictive game. And
yeah,
but I just like how it's, I suppose, what I'm actually saying, my point is about the joke of this game seems like a gruesome zombie slasher multiplayer, whatever it is, but it's such a simple game.
And it's also the seventh edition of the game as well, so it's like how much has changed between each of these generic costs of the game.
Yeah. So there's a nice, I always enjoy that joke every time it comes up.
Yeah, no, I did enjoy that.
So this is where we get the visual joke of the cockerel running down the slope shouting, "Wake up in the morning."
Yeah, no, I said that.
It's a brilliant joke.
I enjoyed that.
It just seems exactly what a cockerel says. And Todd's been up all night playing this game. He's all tired and zombified, and he's now got to go to this investor showcase and perform the third act showstopper, which he hasn't actually written or finished. And he tries to perform in front of them, and it's just a terrible performance. Virgil Van Cleef's like, "I'm sorry, I've made an error judgment. It's obviously not going to work." Again, Bojack here is putting up a facade to Todd that he's on his side.
Yeah.
He's defending him. When Virgil Van Cleef's like, "I didn't like it," he's like, "You've missed out here. This kid was going to be amazing and it was going to be the best opera. You're never going to do it. And he starts being quite rude as well. And Todd's like,
yeah,
maybe don't be too rude because I could ask for a second chance. And, and Bojack's here is like, no, that's it. If you don't want me now, you don't want me ever. You don't want this ever.
Todd asks him not to burn the bridges, and Bojack is intentionally burning the bridges because then Todd will stay with him as long as he wants.
Yeah, we very clearly know what's happening. Yeah. He also finishes it off with Sarah Lynn's catchphrase from the last episode where he says, "Suck a dick, dumb shits." And this is something that's going to come up again, but it's just a nice, again, call back to the last episode, but also a way of being very rude to everybody that was watching the Todd's performance. This takes us back into Bojack's living room where Todd's feeling very sorry for himself. Yeah, and he's talking about how he blew it and feeling quite sad that he actually convinced himself for a second that he was going to do something.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, and then this is where we get another use of the phrase, the fool me once, what did you say? Fool me once, fool me twice, chicken soup with rice.
Okay.
Is what he says.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, it's another callback to the phrase that it just feels like there should be a bigger reason why they use it.
Yeah, there must be some overarching joke here.
But all I can think of is it's like this now. I think you actually said it as well, like the evolution of a phrase being taken out of context. Did you say something about that earlier? Like it just evolved and changed and until it actually doesn't even mean what it used to mean.
No, I was thinking that there's maybe it's talking about something, how there's a prescribed way to say something that everyone has a consensus that this is how it should be said, but either people don't know how it should be said or they don't understand. I don't know. I'm totally speculating, so I can't figure out what why this keeps coming up.
But it just feels, and maybe it's just a joke that the phrase.
Maybe the fact that, because the phrase is "fool me once, shame on you; fool me twice, shame on me."
Yeah.
So maybe the fact that there's a commentary that people can't recognise when someone should be shamed. I don't know.
But Bojack is looking very guilty here as well. In the animation, when you look at him and Todd's explaining how screwed up he is now. But this is where Bojack tells him that he can now have the living room closet to keep his keyboard and all this stuff in.
Yeah.
And Todd's quite happy about this and feels quite warm to Bojack. It's clearly a gesture out of guilt.
Yeah, maybe Bojack's just been rocked by the fact that he never thought that Todd would leave. And now this is the first time when he's like, actually,
so
this isn't guaranteed that he's going to stay here. So if I give him this, then that makes it more likely that he'll stay.
Yeah. Meanwhile, at Mr. Peanut Butter's house, Diane finds Wayne's laptop and reads the notes he's been making for the BuzzFeed article, which are just gibberish. He's just been mashing away at the keys, pretending to write. So again, he's clearly just trying to be in Diane's presence and hoping that something's going to develop between them. And Wayne confesses to wanting to be back together with Diane. This is where we get a bit of a speech from Wayne. And this is the only other real callback to the episode title that we have, because Wayne now talks about the Zoe and Zelda sort of paradigm. And Wayne says, "I've been following you two around for the last couple of weeks, and I think it's pretty obvious to everyone that you shouldn't be with Mr. Peanut Butter." So he's sort of saying that to everyone. He's sort of saying about the audience as well. And Diane says, no, Mr. Peanut Butter is kind and he's generous and he's loyal. And yeah, Wayne's basically saying to Diane that she's pretending to be like Mr. Peanut Butter to try and have an easier life.
Okay. It's kind of got parallels to the first or second episode when Bojack says, talking about Mr. Peanut Butter, and he says he's so stupid, he doesn't realise how unhappy he didn't realise how miserable he should be. And I don't know if this Zoe and Zelda thing is a bit of a call to that. You could argue that being cynical is just you are evaluating something too much. You're looking into something too much. And you're seeing the negative side of it. And with a lot of the time, if you're just oblivious to something, that can lead to happiness. I don't know if this Zoe and Zelda thing is like a commentary on, for example, Bojack and Mr. Peanut Butter. That Mr. Peanut Butter arguably has a better quality of life. He's happier, he's more content, he's more self-assured, but he's maybe not as deep a thinker as Bojack, whereas Bojack is filled with misery and self-doubt and cynicism, maybe because he is a deeper thinker. So the Zoe and Zelda thing, I don't know, is another kind of reference to this idea of the connection between deep thinking and depression.
No, I think you're right, and it may be like this is just a way of showing us in even more detail what kind of person Bojack is, and maybe what the opposite of Bojack looks like in Mr. Peanut Butter. Maybe that's just the whole purpose of it. But what Wayne is doing is basically saying that Diane is pretending to be that happy-go-lucky person by being with someone that's happy-go-lucky. Yeah. And he thinks that she's not that. He thinks that she's the over cynical, deep thinking type, which I think we agree with as well. Yeah. And Bojack probably agrees with as well, and Wayne agrees with. So, like he said, everyone agrees with it.
Because there is this underlying tension between Diane and Bojack.
Yes, yeah.
Whether that's intentional or not, from a viewer's perspective and from Bojack's perspective, there is definitely some kind of connection between them, some kind of tension that doesn't exist with Mr. Peanut.
Definitely. But yes, I disagree that she's pretending to like him and being with him because she's pretending.
She probably really does like him.
And I think Diane's comments about him being loyal and generous and really good, nice comments for her to make, genuine. Because it does show a different perspective that we've maybe. I don't know whether he's demonstrated those traits to us in the show yet.
He did when he bought the tickets earlier.
Yeah, up until now though. Yeah. Like he hasn't in the first 3 episodes. I think he seemed quite
shallow.
Yeah, exactly that. So now Diane's almost forcing us as an audience as well, with the help of this episode, to say, no, look, what you see as almost like you were saying about there's this divide of 2 types of people is wrong. She's saying, well, yes, you could argue there's those 2 traits, but they don't happen in unison. Like they happen with all these other traits. And although you see Mr. Peanut Butter in this way, I see this whole other side to him. Yeah. Which I think is nice.
Likewise, it goes the other way. You can be a deep thinker and still be happy. Yeah. You don't have to be cynical about everything, right?
Yes. So Diane could have other traits apart from being cynical and thinking that Mr. Peanut Butter's like,
which is the impression that I get. Like we probably see Diane as more on an intellectual and emotional level of Bojack.
Yes.
But not as miserable or jaded as Bojack.
Yes.
There's Diane has an optimism and contentment that I think Bojack doesn't have, even though they are similar. We get the impression they're similar kind of thinking.
Yeah. We're definitely forced by the episodes so far to see their relationship in a certain way and the preferred good partners. But again, what are good partners? Is it maybe that opposites attract? Is it the right thing? Maybe you should have someone that's cynical if you're free going. And well, I think we do actually cut here back to Bojack returning Decapathon to the shop, because I was going to talk about another point with Mr. Peanut Butter. Okay, but I think we actually cut here. Where
we see Mr. Peanut Butter is in the room the whole time.
Do we see it? Because I don't know, because I've written that in a different bit.
Did they continue? Okay. Did they continue talking later on?
Well, regardless of the actual chronological flow, it turns out that Mr. Peanut Butter, while Diane and Wayne have been having this argument about whether Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter are a good relationship, they've been having this argument, and Mr. Peanut Butter's just been sat there. Yeah. And then at the end he goes, I really like that guy. Yeah. So again, it's showing how naive he is.
It's how stupid he is, but also how blissfully happy he is because he's so naive to him.
There's something in that ability to hear something negative about you or what other people would perceive as negative and still be okay.
Do you think there's a parallel here between Mr. Peanut Butter and Bojack?
In what way?
That Bojack, so neither of them can hear negative feedback about themselves. So Bojack,
but they act in different ways.
Yeah, so Bojack, Bojack will hear it,
yes,
and understand it,
yes,
but he won't believe it.
Right, okay.
And he might even retort back and say, "No, you're wrong."
Okay,
like he'll refuse to take on that information that it can't possibly be right. And Mr. Peanut Butter can't take on that information because he literally doesn't understand. Like, he's totally oblivious to it. They're both impervious to criticism.
No, I think you're. That's an interesting point that they both don't deal with criticism. They both deal with criticism in a different way.
Yeah, but neither of them take it on board.
None of them take it on their way.
I don't know. This is just a random speculation.
I don't know whether the rest of the show gives me this opinion or not, or whether it's something that's self-implied by myself. But I do like the idea that Mr. Peanut Butter is very aware of everything and has the stoic mentality of, I'm going to choose how I perceive that. I'm not going to react based on my first emotion, like primary emotion.
Yeah.
I'm going to just take on what you said. Great. Thank you for saying that you don't think we should be together. Actually, I think you're a nice guy.
Maybe.
I've not got a problem with you. Like, what if he takes the criticism on, but knows that it's only like words don't hurt me, and actually it's my opinions that are important, and I'm going to be positive back to you.
I don't think he's that smart.
Okay, and that's what I'm saying. I don't know whether it's...
The other argument that you could make is that it's not just about his stupidity, it's about his superiority complex.
Right, okay,
this guy is saying this stuff about me. Why the hell should I listen to him? Because I'm Mr. Peanut Butter and I'm famous and everyone loves me.
I've been on a TV show.
Yeah. Oh, we get the title for the BuzzFeed article as well.
Yes, go on. Yes,
because Diane says, "Oh, it'll be a mean title." Or is he a mean, like, it'll be a mean title? Yeah. It's like, I think he refutes that, and she goes, "Go on then, what's the title?"
And it's like 10 jokes from the 90s we forgot about.
Or
we can't.
Nine jokes from the 90s that are still being used, or something like that.
Right. Yes, because this is actually a lead on Twitter. I haven't written it down for some reason, but this is another nod of the writer talking to us, because Wayne says, "You're not going to tear Bojack apart in your book." He's like, he can't comprehend. He's like, surely you're having a go at Bojack in this book, you're right. And she goes, "No, I'm writing a nuanced piece about a complicated man." To powerful, something like that. Which I think, again, is like in earlier, I think is the writer actually saying to us about the whole show of Bojack being, I don't think it's a spoiler, or I think it's okay for me to say, but at first I think you see Bojack as a bad person. And I think the problem with that is how we do see people as bad people is we don't take everything into account.
Never see the nuance.
Yeah. And this is exactly what Diane's trying to do in this book, is trying to see the nuance and explore the depth. And I think what this, I just want to talk about it now, basically, but I think what this show does is it does give us it starts us off with a 2D character.
Yeah.
And gradually, with all of them actually, like with all characters, like it builds and builds on them, and until eventually you have a better picture. And I don't think you necessarily will think they're good people by the end, or any of them, but I think you have a better understanding, and I think that changes how you see the show when you watch.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you're going to watch it back again, let alone watch the whole show. But if you ever do, you might look at it differently.
No, I think it's also, obviously it's a very blatant commentary on the different levels of quote unquote journalism.
Yeah.
That, like, it's the tabloid versus the broadsheet.
Yes.
It's the clickbait article versus the actual well-written piece of journalism.
Yes. No, definitely. So we see Bojack returning to Capricorn, to the shop where he originally bought it, but he said he lost the receipt. But the guy says, no, it's all right, I recognise you. I remember you brought it here earlier, which now we sort of realise that it's proven to us what we thought, that Bojack has deliberately sabotaged his rock opera. He also pays off the clerk behind the store in the store where he bought it, and the lady who was behind Todd in the queue who pointed it out. So it's very orchestrated.
Was her name something significant? Because he specifically says, here you go, here's your payment, character actor.
Margot Martindale.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yes.
That's actually the joke that no one can remember her name. And it's not a spoiler. It's an on-running joke that she's going to come up.
Okay, she's a character actor.
But there's a joke about her being a very good, famous actor, but no one knows who she is. But partly because she's such a good actor, so you don't recognise her in anything else. So, but yeah, she's just a very good actor.
Okay, got that.
But again, just shows how much effort he's gone to.
Yeah.
He's hired a very famous actor to play a bit in this thing.
Bojack seems to show no remorse as well.
Yeah.
He's just going around paying off these people. Like, it's okay, I did what I need to do, I don't care. Like, it makes no difference to me.
Yes, and he's doing it in a very sneaky way, isn't he? Yeah. He's got like a hoodie on, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's very hard to see him as anything but a horrible person at this point. Yes. Yeah, I think that's all you can say about it. And the whole episode ends with us seeing the receipt that Bojack couldn't find for Decaprathon under the couch where Todd is sleeping.
Dun dun dun.
Yes.
Foreshadowing.
Another big cliffhanger, like we had in the last episode with the journalist with the pictures.
Yeah.
So will Todd ever find out what Bojack did? And how and it leaves us thinking, I think, how that relationship would change, develop.
At this point, I don't think there'd be a big fallout from it.
Okay.
I think both of them are too shallow to.
Okay, so you think are you sort of suggesting that Todd would find out and then be like, that's a shame.
Yeah, that didn't work out, but I've still got a couch to stay on, so whatever. Okay. I don't see it being I don't see it being a big deal.
You don't see it as big as the potential fallout from Sarah Lynn's photos. Bojack and Sarah Lynn's photos with them having sex.
I don't think it's a big fallout from that either, because no one cares about Bojack.
Oh, okay.
He's a washed-up celebrity. I mean, he's already an alcoholic and probably dependent on a number of prescription drugs, and he's got no friends. And how much? If these photos get published, it can't really affect him any more than in the state that he's currently in.
He's not going to get another job.
Yeah, exactly. He's not working now anyway. So I don't think there's there's not much jeopardy there. I don't think.
Okay. Well, we will see what happens.
Yeah.
So just to go to favourite visual jokes to round off the episode, I think mine's the cockerel.
Yeah, the cockerel run-in was good. Yes. And like I said, the pigeon and the apartment building, I did like that, but it could have just been a bit more concise. Yeah.
So ratings out of 10 / summaries of the episode. You go first. Right.
I will give it a 4, and I will say it was boring. It was a boring 4. I was going to give it a 3, but 3 implies that it was bad. I don't think it was bad. It was just boring. It just didn't go anywhere. I wasn't invested in the story. This new character, Wayne, I don't care about him. I enjoyed seeing Mr. Peanut Butter. I think I mentioned before, the more we get to know Mr. Peanut Butter, the more I like him, because he's the only likeable character in the show, really, at the moment. Maybe that's because he's so naive and stupid that he's not as malicious and vindictive as the rest of the cast. Yeah, I just wasn't invested in this episode at all. The rock opera story didn't really do it for me, didn't really go anywhere. The Zoe and Zelda thing was a bit derivative, unless I've missed something there. Yeah,
I'm giving it a 6.
Okay.
6 out of 10. Which I think is the lowest I've given.
Probably. So I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it is the lowest.
What I've said already as well.
I think that's your lowest as well.
Okay.
I keep wanting to say it's a forgettable episode, but then I do remember so much about it. So maybe that's not the best word, but
Do you remember so much about it because you've watched it multiple times and you've watched it taking notes in preparation for the podcast? Because I watched it once about 6 hours ago, and already I can't remember half of the scenes in it.
No, so I still like the joke about with Princess Caroline not being in bed and Bojack saying, did you get there? And that has stuck with me for a long time, regardless of exactly why it's funny or anything like that. I think it's good to see a bit more of the relationship between, we've seen a slightly different angle of the relationship between Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter, which I quite like, and Bojack and Todd as well. I feel like the relationship's gone to another level. I mean, to be fair, you talked about the first episode being very much a scene setter. I feel like there's bits in this episode that are setting stuff up for later again.
Okay.
So maybe that's again why it's a bit poor, because it feels a bit poor because it's sort of a development episode rather than a climatic episode.
It's also just kind of confirming what we already knew.
Yeah.
Like I said, from the first episode, we get a distinct impression that Bojack likes to keep Todd around because otherwise he'd be alone.
That's confirmed.
And this episode is just all about confirming that.
Yeah, but
we don't really get any new information, okay. I don't think.
But then we are seeing him not just enjoy someone being around, want someone being around him, but deliberately being deceitful and horrible, manipulative to keep them around. Yeah. I feel it has taken a level, but again, I've got this bit of an axe to grind on the title of the show and the whole Zoes and Zeldas thing. Like, I can't let it go for some reason, although it doesn't actually affect the story in any way. It just doesn't. It doesn't feel like a great episode, particularly when I compare it to other episodes as well. But I wouldn't go as far to say that and like you, it's a bad episode. If I'm putting it on a scale of all animated TV shows that I've seen and episodes that I've seen, I don't think it's like a bad one.
Okay, so here's a theory for the Zoe and Zelda, why it's called Zoe and Zelda. Because it's talking about contrasting relationships and types of people in relationships. So the two plot lines in this episode are Bojack and Todd's relationship, and Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter's relationship. Okay. And there, you could argue that in both of those situations, one of them's a Zoe and one of them's a Zelda.
No, yeah, you're right there. I like that. No, yeah, but you're right. I like the idea of when the episode isn't about the difference of the personalities, it's about the personalities together. Yeah. Like it's about how we function together as opposites. So yeah, I like that actually. Not strong.
You say not strong, I say boring.
Not strong because I think there is some funny moments. Like objectively funny moments, like the cockerel, like
but these are like eight second moments in a 23-minute episode. No, what I'm saying is like when I'm watching it, I'm like, am I going to sit through this 20-minute plus episode just for two gags that last 5 or 6 seconds? That's that. And this goes back to the whole concept of this podcast. I didn't enjoy watching Bojack before. And this episode has just cemented that. So I got to the end of the episode and I was like, I could have spent 20 minutes of my time doing something more fun than this.
The IMDb rating, 7.4.
Okay.
So we've both fallen below that rating this time, which is interesting or not interesting. Thank you for listening. In the next episode, we will be discussing Series 1, Episode 5, Live Fast, Diane Nguyen.